Welcome back, Inebri-arts. If you haven't noticed, we're kind of doing a new little trend for this summer. We are inviting authors who will be appearing at our Pages and Pints events on August 20th at Mayflower Brewery. It's a small press expo, self-published authors, that kind of thing. And today's no different. But today we're bringing on a former guest, or returning guest, I should say. Oh, did you hear that thunder? Um, so I apologize if there's thunder in the background, but we're getting a bit of thunderstorm. But today's guest is John Yuskaitis. Did I get that last name right?
You did,
All
absolutely.
right. Uh, Author, illustrator, Boots and Pup. We had you on like it feels like 1,000 episodes ago, but it's been a long time, man. Like, what are you up to? What you been up to?
Yeah. No, well, first of all, I'm going to bring the thunder. That's for
Is
sure.
that what it was?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was quite some time ago. Actually, I can tell you right now, it was in 2016 was the last time we
Wow.
spoke on that. That's not the, I don't think that's the last time we've spoken.
Yeah,
We've known each other prior to that. But yeah, it's been
I think that was year
quite
one
an
of this. Yeah.
eventful. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. See, you guys are over 300 episodes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was quite the show. It was fun. I enjoyed it. We had a pint over some good conversation. I'm looking forward to it again today. So as far as what I've been up to, I've been, making my comics, and being, someone who likes to always be active, always be creative, and tell stories. It's been something I've been, kind of chugging along at, and it's been enjoyable. And this year has been no exception. I have some fun projects out.
How many volumes of Boots and Pup are there out now? Because I mean, like we've known each other a long time, and I mean, it's you started must have been over a decade ago, right?
Oh, actually, I don't want. This is where I start to date myself. But it's been 18 years. I've been doing Boots and Pup
Whoa.
as a web. Yeah, started off as a web comic in 2005 February, and I've been doing it since then. So we'll see in 2 years a 20th anniversary, or 20th celebration, which I'm gearing up towards producing what I think would be my best work yet for the characters. But yeah, it's been a fun ride. Starting out in what I not that it's a lowly world of web comics, but web comics are just what you make of them. You can create a comic, put it online, and be able to get it out there to the world. And so that's kind of how that began. But there's over 250 comic strips out there. I have a 176 page graphic novel, which I've been, one of my works I think I'm the most proud of. Last year, I did a 3 issue comic series based upon the Instagram comics that I had put out the previous year. So yeah, it's been a fun time with the characters.
Is I mean, almost 20 years in. Is do you? I mean, are you tired of it? Like, have you wanted to
No.
go in a different direction?
Well, what's nice about it is that it's like anything. It's like having a friendship where sometimes if you see the friends too much, you kind of take them for granted, or you're just thinking, well, you know what, maybe I need a break. I've taken little breaks throughout the time. And those breaks are generally just to recharge my system with them, but I never get tired of it. As a matter of fact, when I find myself being pulled back to the characters, it's when they speak to me the most. It's when who they are kind of reaches out to me and say, "Oh, I'd really like to explore or see what happens if they do A, B, C, and D." I have worked on another project, which is another lifelong project, that I had begun back in college, and it's something that I had on the back burner. It's a honest to goodness comic book. It's kind of set in the classic feel and tone of what comics and superhero comics used to be. And so it's something that has come up from time to time. I've had small presentations of it at different Comic Cons. And this past couple of years, I said, I really want to finish that off. And so I have a new comic debuting this year. It's called The Masked Bug. It's about a superhero who is again in the vein of classic comics from the 50s and 60s, the golden and silver age, It's about heroic characters, scenery chewing villains, and a cast of characters that I'm really proud of. So that's been my 2023 project, and I'll see it actually releasing this summer, which is exciting.
Oh, that's excellent. That's so cool. I mean, it's bizarre to think, even to think that we've been podcasting for God, was it 7 years now? I think, and it time flies so fast. Like, what have you seen in the industry change? I mean, you've been doing Comic Cons for 20-ish
Oh yeah.
years, and I mean, there. I feel like there was a distinct change when I was doing them from the standard nerdy guy, who had limited friends and no girlfriend to everyone goes now. I mean, like, what
That's right.
is it changing now? Is it like what's are they losing steam?
So it's an interesting question. Yeah. So we met, I think we met in 2011. We sat next to each other at Boston Comic Con.
Yep, that sounds about right.
And so that was actually my first Comic Con to be there with comics. Prior to that, I'd be attend, and in the webcomic world, we tended to be a subset of cartooning and versus being a subset of superhero comics or floppy comics. So really, weren't seeing a lot of presence out there or being out there amongst the Comic Cons. And so 2011 is when I first went there, and it was interesting because we were seeing cons start to grow. And one of the things that I noticed Comic Con, a lot of people were saying, "Hey, this is my first Comic Con," and I was meeting people from actually all across the world.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy for 2011, and as we went into 2012, 2014, we'd have people coming in and they'd be like, "This is my first Comic Con. This is my first Comic Con." So the question is, why is this your first Comic Con? One answer kept coming back over and over again is that they were fans of Big Bang Theory. For some reason, Big Bang Theory made Comic Cons cool. Now, I've never really watched a full episode, and it's not because I have a desire to not watch it or have any show itself. I mean, maybe because I knew all those people. Those are out with that was kind of the lifestyle I knew, and something I probably didn't want to engage in when I wasn't focused on Comic Cons. But yeah, so I think it pushed a lot of people out to the shows, and it grew. And what was great there is because Boots and Pup is an on book, so you can enjoy it. You can be a kid to enjoy it, is that these
But it's funny that you mentioned Big Bang because like I was gonna mention that as like a point of kind of turning in, but I'm like, nah, that can't be it. And it's funny, like it really popularized the culture, and I feel like people who were in the culture before hate it.
uh, there is some animosity towards it. However, this is it drove attendance. And Marvel also for what they had created, they were building up. They were driving new people to of this entertainment, and they wanted to see what it was about. And then all of a sudden, the shows start to add the celebrities because cons for the longest time they were Comic Cons. You'd go there, you'd meet your favorite comic writer, your favorite comic artist. You wouldn't go there to meet your favorite actor who played a character in a comic movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then that started to change too, and from the standpoint of well, Boston Comic Con, which was a show I really loved,
Yep.
and actually there is an heir apparent to it with Wicked Comic Con, which
Yep.
has had now 2 years. Boston Comic Con would bring in one or two, maybe three celebrities, and they would be really focused. Bring in, I mean, Flash from the TV series, or they bring in Daredevil or for the TV series. And that would be it. But those would still be enough of a draw to bring casual fans of this media in, and I think that was a good thing. What ended up happening though over time is some other shows up that either pretended to be Comic Cons or to be Comic Cons, and really were these that had comics were part of it, and artists part of it, but it was really a show. I mean, you were bringing in full casts of TV shows long or of movies, and so the mix ends up being different. It's no longer our comic readers, or if it is, and diluted by a lot of people who aren't comic readers, but are fans of Games of Thrones, or even The Office. Right, I saw one show had cast members from The Office there, so it's spread a bit. It differs, and that's not to say that it's a bad thing. It's just a different thing, and to really find shows that are comic focused, comic centered, it becomes more not I wouldn't say even challenging, because we're now seeing actually that are comic related. We're seeing, I think, them I haven't attended, but it's focused on comic creators. It's focused on comics. So I think there is comes around thing where we're starting to see more shows really focused on comic books, readers, comic creators. I just did a show last Saturday, Kids Fest in Northeastern University. It was an amazing show. It was awesome. It had the same feeling and vibe of the shows from 10 years ago, where we would see new folks coming in, or kids that were just voracious readers of comics. And it was exciting. It was fun. I like seeing that. So I'm always optimistic with shows. I'm optimistic with crowds and readers. So I think that there's still opportunities for us to be there, and for us to be able to find new readership.
And I think a lot of it is just kind of, just like everything else. There's trends in everything. I remember a few years ago there was these new things that started to pop up at cons, and I'm like, ugh, who wants to buy that silly thing? And then you fast forward to a few years ago where it was all pop vinyls at shows, and but sometimes you just have to let the trends come and go, and it still scratches those same kind of nerd pop culture itches.
Right.
And it's interesting. How do you and with like the new access to medias like TikTok and YouTube and all these other things, do you try to, or have plans to incorporate Boots and Pup into new media?
Oh, so one of the interesting things that happened to me, now looking at 2 years ago, is I took Instagram following to over 9,000 followers. And it was amazing because I had found or happened into a whole new subset of comic fans that were very receptive to what I was doing with Boots and Pup. I mean, I would find myself getting fan art. I'd find myself getting weird, communications from folks. Like it felt great to have a level of readership and veracity towards the readership coming through. They hinged upon every episode. They became really some super fans. I even had okay, I'm connected to the phone now. How
Okay,
is that?
that's good. I can hear you. I don't hear any more
Okay.
clicking.
Okay.
Oh, excellent.
Do we want to roll from that
So,
question about
yeah,
Instagram?
just in case our listeners missed it, we were having some technical problems. So John called in from his phone opposed to computer or whatever. And I believe I'd asked you, did you have plans to bring Boots and Pup over onto like new formats like TikTok and whatnot? And you started telling me something about Instagram, but I had absolutely no idea what you were saying. So if we can
Yeah.
start recapping from there.
Okay. Well, so as far as Instagram goes, a couple of years ago, I decided to serialize new comics on Instagram, and it was really successful. I ended up growing my following to over 9,000 followers. They
Nice.
were extremely voracious for new comics. I was getting fan art from the readers. Uh, just it was a wonderful ecosystem of really excited readers. And it was fun. It was a learning experience because prior to this, as a webcomic artist, you created your webcomics, you put them out there. You would have people interacting with you. Sometimes you get emails, sometimes you get posts on the actual comics themselves, but nothing was ever that instantaneous or felt that much like a community. And so it was really exciting. So yeah, I'm definitely a proponent of Instagram for webcomics. And when I do focus on new content, I do plan on making sure Instagram is a cornerstone, and that I will make sure that the new content is released there on Instagram, and be able to re-engage that following as well as hopefully grow into new followers.
It is kind of a perfect format. I mean, where it is completely visual based. Not I mean, 99% visually based. It's not about reading, the description. I feel like I never read what anyone writes on their photos. I just scroll through the photos. Um,
Mhm.
and it's a place where Inebri-art needs to do more. It's one of the places where people go to find stuff, and it's such a pain because it's like every time something new comes out, now I'm sounding like an old person where it's like I don't want to learn something new. Um,
Right.
it's do you ever get that kind of why can't it just be like the old days?
I think I'm unique in that regards. I do enjoy technology. I enjoy seeing where we've been versus where we're going.
Yeah.
Yes, I do miss some of the community from webcomics in the old days because we had websites that you would go to and kind of live in with forums, and
Hmm.
you were able to interact with either readers or other webcomic creators that way. It felt magical and special back then. And I sound like an old guy, but web comics actually I started in 2005. Web comics were around before that. I mean, we had web comics back in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And we have some of them still going on today. I mean, Scott Kurtz began PvP in 1998, and he's still making these comics, and he's still a cornerstone of web comics. So I do in some ways miss it, but I also do love to see technology. I'm not a fan of Instagram being a video focused format.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's their thing. I feel like that might be TikTok's thing. I think Instagram was all about, nice photography, keeping it basic but beautiful. Like Pinterest is there for a specific reason. I don't have a Pinterest account. I don't really it doesn't connect with me, but Instagram did. The same thing with Twitter. Twitter doesn't connect with me. I
Well,
can't tell you the last time I
Twitter's a
posted on
dumpster
Twitter.
fire. I mean, I don't know what Twitter is good for. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I just had a weird thought. Like, am I remembering correctly, or were at one point you talking about doing a cocktail book?
Very good. Yes, it's still out there, and it's
Oh,
interesting that
did
you
you put it
you
out?
bring that up. I have not yet.
Okay, okay.
I do have a prototype that I've used, and the impetus for it was that we do a lot of traveling with friends where we sail or we put ourselves up in beautiful locales where we kind of live amongst ourselves. And one of the things that we always enjoy is a good cocktail that can be made easy.
Yeah,
Something that you can kind of take a look at what ingredients you have available, and then what recipes are suitable for those ingredients, and really keeping it simple. And so I did. I built out this book that copies. My friends have copies. I went to a print shop and had some printed up,
yeah.
and we live by these. And it's been quite the experience. People have said to me, when are you going to publish it? Or I have friends who would like a copy of that. So I call it the long project,
Yeah.
because it serves me. I have a copy of it, and we use it all the time. It's categorized, appropriately. Again, it's based upon tried and true drinks. It's not something that you have to hunt down exotic ingredients, and it's really foundational. What cocktails are. You're not going to find any crazy ingredients. It's all straightforward things you can either buy, squeeze, or pour from you know from a store or a trading company, and where have you. So yeah, good memory. I about that.
Yeah. What's your go-to?
My go-to,
Yeah.
in terms of making. I mean, I love a good Mai Tai.
Oh,
And yeah, I can make you a couple
yeah.
different ones. I also, because we do a lot of our trips in the Caribbean,
Yep.
a painkiller,
Okay.
goes a long way on a hot day. But I'm a sucker for a Negroni, right? I'm a sucker for an old fashioned too. So, I like to keep it simple in
Yeah.
the palate, but definitely enjoy, trying something new or trying something classic.
That's
Um,
you listed off a couple of my favorites there. I'm a big Mai Tai fan. I love old fashions. Um, we You'll appreciate this. We were out in Vegas recording Bar Talk, and uh one of the hosts, Carl's a big fan of tiki bars. He's like, we're gonna find a tiki bar, we're gonna find a tiki bar.
mhm.
So he finds this tiki bar. We Uber over there, and the Uber driver's like, "Why are you going there?" And Carl's like, "I don't know. I just Googled tiki bars, and this came up, and it had a high rating." And the guy was like, almost trying to talk us out of going there. Like, "Oh, you should try here instead. You should try that." But he never changed course, so we didn't say anything. And it was I think it's Frankie's Tiki Room. I think that was the name of it. And so we walked in. Carl opens the door. We all follow him through. And this woman goes, "You guys can sit wherever you want." And Carl's just like, "Who said that?" It was the darkest room that I've ever been in that had
Mhm.
power. It, we ended up drinking Mai Tais because it was so dark we couldn't read the menu.
Okay. Yeah, which is fair. I mean, growing up here in New England, growing up in this, specifically also, greater Boston, we had some really nice Polynesian restaurants that were built on that level of post World War II tiki culture.
Yeah.
And the Brockton had Pacific Hut. You had
Yep.
Kowloon, right, which I think is still there. But that's what it was. They were these dark, very organic, right? Because you had the water fountains, you had the sculptures, you had the bamboo, you had the tikis, you had all this wonderful, wonderful things that kind of just engulfed you into this world. And finding a good tiki bar, especially one that doesn't try too hard,
Yep.
it's difficult. It's the same thing as finding a good island bar, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
you don't need a lot to make these drinks. They're really, 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 um, set you up to be, a very easy, um, time. I mean, and that's, part of the charm there. The
Yeah,
last
it's
tiki.
about eight ingredients all combined in different ways to make 30 different cocktails.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And one of the things I had purchased off of the eBay some time ago was a Trader Vic's menu from the 1960s, just to see what the deal was there. And
Yeah.
it's something that I'll bring out and put on the bar when we have friends over, because hey, if it's in there, I can make it. I have the ingredients. And thankfully, there are people out there like Beach Bum Berry who have gone and created the books that have figured out the recipes for some of these concoctions that were considered trade secrets, right? So you have, it's such a wonderful culture out there, and it's always worth trying and finding out. And just kind of enjoying it. I mean, yeah, it's a fun part of that socialization aspect of alcohol.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of now on my radar as, when you go places, when you travel, there's always kind of like, oh, let's, find a dive bar, let's find, this kind of food or whatever. Now I'm like, yeah, let's keep an eye out for tiki bars because it was such a blast, man. It's a
Yep.
good time. And you're right. It's that, everything's wood and bamboo and wicker and retro, but in a very cool way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely it's its own culture, and also the tiki mugs that they serve things in, and then having that there's these markets out there that you can buy. Taking it all the way back to pop culture and Funko Pops, you have geeky tiki, right? Like you can
Oh
buy
yeah.
Star Wars tikis, you can buy, Evil Dead tikis for crying out loud. Like it's very interesting. But finding the good drinks, finding the drinks that are really truly based in the classics, that sometimes is a little harder. Sometimes people want to put their own spin and they want to do something magical when in reality just serve it the way that they made it. People
Right.
are gonna love it. They're gonna. There's a reason why it survived. You know.
So getting back to why we're really talking, but I just had to bring that up because it just popped into my head. So it's interesting because the few people that I have interviewed so far about the Pages and Pints event on August 20th at Mayflower Brewery. I'm not plugging it. They're kind of new as far as getting out in front of either, should I use the word fan or potential fan or new reader? It's a very new experience for them. You, on the other hand, have been doing it forever. How is that experience? Like, do you have hints, suggestions, tips to meeting people, convincing to people to buy your book and read? And it's a place where you're a little more of a salesman of your product.
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. And part of this is that you're excited. So it goes back to the impetus of creation, right? Like, why do you create something? Why do you choose to do something to put it out there? Why do you choose to go beyond your normal day?
I'm gonna
Go
ask the
out.
question, John. Do we choose to, or do we have to?
Well, some people could keep those ideas in their head for their whole life and decide never to put them out on paper. I mean,
Yeah.
or to record them into the world. I think that I definitely think that while creativity is in us, it is a choice to take it past that threshold and to say, I'm not only going to just have these thoughts and these ideas, but I'm going to take these ideas and translate them into whether it be written word or drawn word or through recorded, right? Like that there are reasons why we choose to do this. So there's that impetus and what causes us to cross that threshold, right? That imaginary line in the sand that we draw that we want to step over to enter this world. Because I'll tell you, I could take you all the way back to February 21st, 2005. At that point, my buddy had talked me into creating a web comic. He says, you really have to do this. And prior to that, I had tried the comic thing. I had went to art school and wanted
Yep.
to draw and be a comic artist. And I tried. I went through the submission processes, and I had some hits, but nothing ever really panned out. And I decided, this probably isn't for me. And I decided at a young age. I was in my 20s, and so I said, I'm going to put this away. So I put it away. Went off to found a job in junk mail. Actually, I was working. And there's nothing wrong with junk mail. Believe me,
Oh,
it's kept a lot of my friends employed, and was part of that ecosystem back then. But
yeah.
this guy I'm working with says, "Why you're here making junk mail, but you're extremely talented. Why aren't you drawing comics?" And I said, "Been there, done that. Don't want to do it." I gave him every reason, every excuse why I couldn't make a comic. I said it's going to cost money to publish it. No one's going to publish it. The comic industry had imploded at that time, especially when it came to the independent comics, right? So
Right.
there was no opportunity. And he says to me, he says, "Look, don't. Why are you even talking printed comics? I'm talking web comics." And he's younger than I am, a lot more savvy. And he said, "You got to check out this thing called Penny Arcade." So I'm
Oh,
like,
sure.
okay, I check it out. I check it out. I'm like, wow, these guys are making web comics, and um, but then I said, I don't know how to make a website. So there, I'm like, I'm tapped out. I don't know. And he said,
Yeah.
I can show you in 15 minutes how to make a website. Sure enough, 15 minutes, he showed me how to make a website. So he every excuse I had, every reason I had not to move forward, he found a reason logically to work me through that and to say, no, we're going to get you there. And this is a kid right out of college. He's in his 20s. He's optimistic, like the world, everything's happy and sunshine. And I'm saying to him, the flip side, no, we can't do this. But we did. And so I remember releasing that comic. It was a cold Saturday morning, I believe. Actually, was it a Saturday morning? Because no, it wasn't a Saturday morning. I think it was a Monday because I did Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But I remember the Saturday before when I'm making this comic and I'm thinking to myself, who's going to read this? Nobody's going to read this. Nobody's going to care to read this. Every doubt in my head came through, and it took me 6 hours to make this comic. I thought, man, I'm gonna have to do this every couple of days, every 6 hours. And so I just remember all that doubt. I remember it just building up. And I said to myself, well, I'm still going to do it. I'll put it out there. And if my parents read it, my friends read it, that's fine. So hit publish. I put it out to the world. And it's out there. And so I, I didn't really have any initial reaction to it. Obviously there was nobody was knocking down my door saying this is the most amazing thing. But slowly, as I put the next one out there, I'd start to have people. I'd see my numbers on the website that people were going there and reading it, and then I ended up getting a piece of mail from a stranger, and it was brutal. It basically told me to give up. It said that you have no talent. These characters are horrible. What are you doing?
Wait, actual
And my
mail or email?
well, email. This was an
Oh, I'm
email
like,
at the time.
wow,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
spent a stamp and shit on you. That's
No,
I think if someone spent actually took the time to write and like physically mail me something that was like you don't belong here, I'd be like this person really means it, and I think that would make me reconsider.
well, that's true. And
Uh,
at the time, I don't think that. I think I was just John Y. Because again, the internet was this weird new thing, and didn't want to track have people to be able to track me down.
yeah,
But it was just this awful, deflating piece of letter, and it wasn't even the person didn't even have the guts to sign it. They just signed it some silly tag name. And so I really thought, okay, well, I tried it, I put it out there, I'm done. But something inside of me, and this is probably where this thing is: do we choose or do we feel the need to? Something inside of me said, no, I'm going to keep going, and I kept going. And then not a week later, I get another piece of fan mail. And this one's actually a piece of fan mail.
mm-hmm.
And it's glowing. It's talking about how much they love what I'm doing. It talks about the colors and the characters and just how vibrant and how fun everything is. And he signs it. He actually signs his name. He's an animator working for Fox at that time. And he's like worked on robots with Robin Williams. He worked on the animation for Bowling for Columbine. In between, this guy was really doing it, and I'm like, whoa! Like I go from having this like not knowing anybody's out there, then all of a sudden finding somebody who truly like is someone I should be looking at with a level of respect, and because they've done it. They're out there working and giving me such good feedback. So the story here is always, 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 do what you feel like you need to be doing here and move forward. But also think about how you're contributing to those people who are creating. Are you a good fan? Are you a good reader? Are you a good, I don't like the word fan. I prefer reader. I prefer, something that, because fan means fanatic, and I don't necessarily think people are fanatic for my work, or do I want to be fanatic? I'd much rather them be engaged as the audience and be a reader and be kind of part of the conversation to where they where they can be.
Mhm.
But being a good a good participant or supporter of art, of creators, it's so important. It's so important to I have a good word than have the negative words. Why beat on something, especially something that is clearly there for one purpose, and that is to provide entertainment, to take you out of your world and bring you somewhere else. Even if that trip isn't the best trip in the world, enjoy the ride, enjoy being there. So when you're out there and you're selling your work or you're presenting your work to people, be enthusiastic, be excited about it, because people love excitement.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I bought something or I picked something up because someone was excited about it. I support people on Patreon because they're excited about their work. I might not really be my favorite thing in the world, but it's okay. It's somebody making a step to bring something to the world that wasn't there, and to do it in a way that is there to entertain you. So, have that positive attitude, engage folks. Don't be down on yourself. Don't be negative about what you're doing. To really try to frame it in a way that, hey, I'm here. I'm here to show you something unique, something new that wouldn't have been here if I didn't make that decision. And you're here because you have this willingness to find and learn something new. Look, not everything is everybody's cup of tea. There'll be plenty of people who will take a look at what you're selling and they'll walk on by, or they may not even engage you. It's
That
okay.
that has been something that I have kind of, I don't know whether I've learned it with old age or from talking to some 330 guests from a variety of fields, where it's not like back in the day. If I read a comic and I didn't like it or watched a movie, I'd be like, oh, that movie's shit. Like that movie's no good. Now I'm just like, that movie, I'm not the demographic for that movie. Like I'm not the
Mhm.
person that movie's directed to. It's not the movie, or it's not the comic, or it's not the music. I'm not the audience. It could be someone that's making Zimbabwe traditional techno.
Mhm.
I might just not be the audience for that enjoys that kind of music. That doesn't reflect on the music. It's just that's how it is. And I've
Right.
gotten so less judgy about, people be like, oh, I love this comic. I'll be like, oh, how can you like that piece of garbage? I'm like, cool, it's not my thing, but to each their own. And I like this, and it's kind of given myself more permission to enjoy a wider variety of things, because I feel like when you're so restrictive, you kind of almost pigeonhole yourself. Like in junior high and high school, I was into, heavy metal and grunge
Mhm.
music. And then, that's what I was quote unquote allowed to be into. And now just I listen to all sorts of weird stuff. And
Oh
it's,
gosh, yeah.
I feel like having less descriptors on things, and being less critical. And to me, it's more, are you doing it to be genuine, or are you trying to capture a trend or a fad?
Right.
I feel like if you're doing it to be genuine, I'm all about it. You should do that. I might not be the audience, but you should do that. If you're doing it because you think it's going to make a bajillion dollars because people like superhero movies, so you're going to make a superhero movie because people want to buy tickets to superhero movies, and you don't really, care about that sort of thing, then that's where I think it tends to fall short. And you can see that when studios will kind of be like, we're going to do this, and then they start changing it, or they're not true to the topic or the subject. And you have to be it has to come from a place of you know genuine interest.
Absolutely. And being a good audience, even when it's not your thing. I think it's incredibly important. It's important to support. I dislike the political nature of where entertainment's going in terms of people calling out. If I loved everything that thought the way I did,
Hmm.
my life would be super small, and I don't think that I would have missed out on a lot of really amazing times, amazing experiences. And having those experiences really matter, especially while we're here, while we're breathing, while we're capable of smiling and laughing. Like, let's just put it aside. It's 2 hours. If it's 2 hours and it was horrible, or you didn't like it, okay, that's fine. But like, let's, it just can't be in a way where we're, just beating on things because it doesn't fit what we want it to fit. Just and that's a control aspect, I think. And maybe as I get older, I've learned to, like you, be less in control and let other things just kind of happen. I mean, I'm very agnostic with in terms of music. Like, I'll listen to anything and engage in anything. My Amazon Alexa doesn't get me. Can't pigeonhole me into a specific level. I mean, it's feeding me all. I know all the top music out right now, and I
Yeah.
know it because I listen to it. I don't make judgment calls and say I'm only going to listen to country music between 1974 and 1978, and no Merle Haggard. Like, why?
I feel like I'm making, you know, there's that saying, variety is the spice of life. They say it for a reason. It's because it is. And I feel like I'm making right life choices when the algorithms get confused on who I am.
Yeah,
Like every
absolutely.
once in a while, I'll get like ads in Spanish and I'll be like, wow, that I have somehow fooled the algorithm into thinking I speak Spanish. That's
Yep.
amazing. And that's kind of like, okay, I feel like, it's the idea of, when we say someone's cultured, we think of them as like, oh, they like fine art and opera. And then, like, to me, that's not culture. That's one thing. To be cultured is you like fine art and you've been to the opera and you've been to a death metal show and you've seen a hip hop artist and you've read some Stephen King and like to me it's to be truly cultured is you're willing to experience everything. And when you're in a foreign country and someone offers you the native cuisine, that you're like, yeah, absolutely, let's try it. I might like it, I might not like it, but let's give it a go.
Well, rule number one is someone offers you a free meal, you take it, right? And so you definitely, I mean, granted that there are things that we do need to stand up to and draw lines in the sand and say we don't cross in terms of
Sure.
being good people in society. But as far as entertainment happens, like, enjoy and share. If there's something you truly love, share it. If there's somebody who you see loving what they're doing, celebrate that. Celebrate people having fun and expressing the type of stories that they want to express. And then there's always a time for feedback, right? There's always a time for a critique. There's always an opportunity to talk through why something could be stronger, why something could be more entertaining. I mean, there's always good room for feedback, right? But like, when someone is at an event, and such as the event we'll be having in August,
Pages and Pints on
pages and
August 20th at
pages and
Mayflower
pints.
Brewery.
Yeah, which I'm excited to be at.
Yeah.
Um, but when you're there, that like you're on the field. Like, this is Ted Lasso time, right? Like, you got the game going, the clock's running. So when you're out there, you play the best game you can possibly play, and that game involves you being excited about what you've created and excited about the opportunity that people could be finding what you've created and enjoying it. And also, when they may not be, being okay with that and realizing that if 500 people come through the door, and 10 people really like the jam that you have there, be excited that those 10 people like found you. And those 10 people may be back next time, or those 10 people might follow you on social and be looking for your next thing. And then
Yep.
you find another event where you get 10 people, and then you add that up, and over time, those 10, that becomes an audience. You have people reading and supporting you.
And
But
you
yeah,
never know who those 10 fans are. I
you
mean,
never know. Oh my
you,
gosh.
one of them could
Yeah.
be some sort of influencer that posts your book, and next thing you know, you're on Oprah. I mean,
Yep.
you never know who's there. I've met crazy, not even, they're not famous. Famous is influential, I suppose is the word.
Hmm.
Potentially influential people just sitting at a bar having a beer, and you start talking to the person and chit chatting, and next thing you know, they're the CEO of a major company, and you're like, oh, I just thought you were a regular guy. And he's like, I am a regular guy. And
Right.
you're
That's
like,
right. Yep.
yeah, I guess, now that you put it that, and you just, you never know. And you were telling us the story about the Fox animator that wrote you a fan letter. And like, I had a similar situation. I was interviewing Jim Mahfood.
Hmm.
And so like I didn't do it for you because we know each other, but going in, I'm like, oh, this is who we are and this is how we got started and blah 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 blah. And like, so I'm halfway through that little intro, like before the recording, and Jim stops me. He goes, yeah, I know. And I'm like, what do you mean you know? He goes, I know who you are. And I'm like, I don't, what? How, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, well, you had Wax Taylor on, and I'm a Wax Taylor fan. And so a friend of mine sent me a link to your podcast. So then I went through and saw who else was on your show, and you had this person there, a friend of mine. So I listened to that episode and I listened to this episode. He's like, so I know who you are. And it was just the most strange experience where I was just like, you shouldn't, like, in my brain, it's like, you shouldn't know who I am. But
Right.
it's part of, I guess, part of the fun reason why we do this. I mean, is to connect with other people.
Yeah, it's why we cross that threshold, is that we want to share, and it's spectacular who we may be sharing with and who
Yeah.
may be sharing what we do. So for anyone who's in doubt or doesn't feel comfortable in terms of putting their work out there, you can hit me up on social media and say, give me a pep talk, or talk to me about like what that feels, or did you experience this? Because yeah, I've experienced a lot in the 18 years of doing this, from extreme highs in terms of where I've been with the work, to the lows of it, and to wanting to quit, right? Like sometimes you do want to quit, sometimes you want to give it all up. Thankfully I haven't. Thankfully those that's been fleeting. But this, yeah, it's very interesting being creative, and creating something from nothing, because that's what you're doing, and then putting that something out there to the world, and having the world react. And when the world reacts negatively to it, sometimes they put it in writing, and you can't erase that. But it's
Yeah.
okay, whatever. Just move on. It's someone else's opinion, and it doesn't matter. What matters,
They're
what
just not your audience.
that's right.
Yeah. Uh John, where can people go to read Boots and Pup?
Bootsandpup.com has the web comics on there, so they're there for free, because webcomic creators are weird. We like to give our stuff away. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, which is where my primary source of social media, it's at bootsandpup.com. Oh, I'm sorry, at bootsandpup. And then if you want to, you can always check me out on Amazon too. All my books are available there. That money goes directly to me, and they're available worldwide. So if you're listening to the podcast in India, you can buy a copy of Boots and Pup right now and be reading it tomorrow.
We do get a lot of downloads in India. It's weird. Like
Interesting.
quite a few. Yeah. Um, More than I ever thought. But hey, it is what it is. Um, and they can see you at Pages and Pints on August 20th at Mayflower Brewery. Um,
Absolutely.
and thanks for coming back on the show, and thanks for sticking with us through the technical difficulties.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry if the weather wasn't in alignment for us to
Yeah.
make it a clear shot, but I enjoy being on the show. Enjoy talking to you, Andy, and anytime you want to have me back, I'm available.
Yeah, man, it was good to catch up. We should get together for some tiki drinks.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, man. So we're gonna part ways for today, and our listeners will catch you guys again next week.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.